This is 3rd of December, and Baba's talking specially about Amrit Vela and the time that there is the special appointment with God to draw power into the self, to wake up early and to commune with Baba. This gives you the energy for the day. But there needs to be an accumulation. So how do you know if you're taking enough or not enough? So if you're taking enough, your weaknesses will be deactivated. If you're not taking enough, the weaknesses will remain active. And so this is the signal to the self that the yoga needs to increase. And all over the yagya, many people are feeling the need to increase the yoga. But there are a lot of energies that go against that. So to increase the yoga, you need more power than usual. So this is that time. Essence. Sweet children, wake up early in the morning and definitely say good morning to Sheep Baba. As soon as you wake up, remember Sheep Baba and not any bodily being. So as soon as you wake up, you're close to your subconscious. And whatever your karmic accounts are with any bodily being, that's likely to come up right at that time. So if your mind goes right to Sheep Baba, that's a really good sign. The question is, which contract can no one take except the Father? And the answer is the contract to make the world pure can only be the Father's contract. No one else can take this contract. When we come to Baba, we also take a contract, and that is to work with him in fulfilling his contract. Because anyone who has a project, they make an agreement with history, I think, an agreement with history. So Sheep Baba makes an agreement with history that I will purify the world, but he doesn't take birth, so he has to have us so that we are also the ones who will live in the new world. Otherwise, no one would be there. So that's why we're here. Agreement with history. Well, if God makes a contract, with whom will he make this contract? I think it will have to be with history. History means, consciousness of what happens. History means the drama. So you could say he has a contract with us, or you could say he has a contract with himself, but there would be no point in having a contract with himself, being God. So I think it has to be a contract with history. But you may have another idea. Baba says, certainly sannyasis become pure and sustain the world. So when the sannyasis come into the historical record, it is close to the beginning of the Iron Age. And the Iron Age is the time when there is full-on decline and impurity. And so they, with their practice of celibacy, they hold up the world. Baba often says this. So they can hold up the world, but they cannot make the world pure. only Shiv Baba can take the contract to make the world pure. The Father shows you children the way to become pure. So he makes us pure, and our purity makes the world pure. The sannyasi's purity doesn't make the world pure because two things. They make their wives into widows and their children into orphans. And then they do practice purity, but the people who call themselves their followers do not practice purity, so it's inadequate. Whereas BKs, all BKs practice purity. So that's very large numbers. In the religions, the monks and nuns and priests are supposed to practice purity, but there's not very many of them. And the level of purity that they practice is not very high in most cases. And there are many who don't practice purity at all. So it's not enough to make the world pure. So Shiv Baba gives us the energy every day in the early morning, the energy to be in our purity. And then we have to take that energy and amplify our purity. So children, remember the Father while carrying out your business. Connect your intellects in yoga. That means focus your attention on the one Father. And the song is, who has come here in the early morning hours? Om Shanti. The Father is sitting here explaining to you spiritual children. If you use the expression, God Shiva speaks, there are many people who have the name Shiva. And so this is why it has to be said that the spiritual Father is first of all giving love and remembrance to his spiritual children. So you establish that Shiva is the Supreme Soul and we are all souls. In the morning, the first thing you say is good morning. And you also heard good morning. Shiv Baba says good morning to you. Who comes early in the morning and says good morning? The Father comes in the morning. This is the unlimited morning, the dawn of the new world. The unlimited morning and the unlimited night, which no one knows about. And among you children too, you know this number-wise, according to the efforts you make. So the efforts you make are to do with understanding what's going on. If you take this in a religious way, you think, well, there's no time limit. It goes on forever and you go through the rituals. But if you take it as this is a very short period of time and you have only one chance, and you maybe take it more seriously. Although you have become his children, you don't wake up in the morning and remember him. If you did wake up in the morning and first of all said good morning to Shiv Baba, that is, if you remembered him, you would have a lot of happiness. So happiness is the feeling that you have when you're in your full power. But if your battery is a bit weak, then you wouldn't have that feeling. So he calls that happiness. Many children do not wake up and remember Baba in the morning at all. On the path of devotion, also people wake up early in the morning to perform devotion. Usually says they wake up at 5 o'clock, we wake up at 4 o'clock or before 4 o'clock. You have to be ready. They do their rituals of worship, they turn the beads of a rosary, they chant mantras, and they perform devotion That is, they perform worship of a corporeal being. So the different gods and goddesses are corporeal beings. And so when they're remembering one of them, then the image of that one appears in front of that devotee. They're thinking about them physically. And those who worship Shiva, they remember the form, the oval form, the Shiva Lingam. And that is wrong because you're remembering something physical. So you children now have to have faith, first that you are souls. And you must wake up in the morning and say, Baba, good morning. Not physically, but be connected. But Baba knows that none of you have this habit. None. Must be some. Did you wake up, Amritvela? The father says, children, each of you has a burden of sins of half the cycle on your head, which is not getting removed because you're not remembering Baba. So you are in the practice, but inadequately, so it doesn't get you to move. So for some, the sins continue to increase even more. Just as a rat blows before it bites, means it wants to anesthetize the person it wants to bite, so it blows on him. So Maya continues to bite you like a rat. Maya scalps you, and you don't even realize it. So your hair is symbolic of your dignity. And so if your hair is shaved off, that's a big insult to you. And in some cultures where they wear a top knot, like for example in Japan, they wear a top knot, the samurais or whatever. So when you have victory over one, they chop off their hair, and that's a sign of defeat. So this is why Baba says Maya scalps you, and you don't even realize. Some consider themselves to be very knowledgeable, but Baba knows very well that they're weak in having remembrance. Ask your heart. You know, there was someone who decided, okay, what I'll do, I'll make a recording of the 7 days course. And then people can listen to that recording. Then I don't have to repeat myself every time. So what is that? You don't understand. Because why do you teach this knowledge to someone? To remind yourself. Do I wake up in the morning and remember Baba? You have found the unlimited Father in the unlimited morning. Sannyasis also wake up and remember the element of light, the Brahma element. Normally, as soon as people wake up, they remember their friends and relatives, etc. A devotee would remember his favorite deity. So sinful souls would say good morning to other sinful souls. That is, they would remember sinful souls. One should be in remembrance in the morning. Devotion is performed in the morning also. But they do not perform rituals of devotion to God because they don't know God. Even though they say that God will give them the fruit of their devotion. And even though they say, oh God the Father, it is the soul who says this, but none of them knows the Supreme Soul accurately. You know, they say, oh God, the mind goes up or out somewhere, but who and what and where is God? Nobody has any idea. So they can only know God when he himself comes and introduces himself. Otherwise, everyone has been saying, it isn't this, it isn't that. And they know what God isn't, but they don't know what he is. So God comes only at this time and tells you who he is. But among you children also, there are many very great Maharatis who are looking after centers, yet they do not know the Father fully. They do not remember the Father with that love. They do not wake up early in the morning and say good morning or think about the knowledge. If they stayed in remembrance, the mercury and the temperature of their happiness would rise. But Maya doesn't allow it to arise. If you become disrespectful to the Father, Maya will break your intellect's yoga, that is, your capacity for concentration, your communion, your focus on God. So Maya will break that completely. And your intellects, your attention, will remain caught up in useless things. Now, this is why it's very good to consider the world as Vishay Sagar, the ocean of distractions, because if you get distracted by distractions, then he's not going to think that you're a yogi. To become a master of heaven is not like going to your auntie's home. Your auntie's home means anything goes, it's easy. Your parents' home, there's disciplines, it's strict. It's very easy to become a subject. As you progress further, you will see how even those who have been here for 30 or 40 years will break away. Maya will just blow them away, and they will not be able to claim a royal status. And if you die beforehand, how could you claim the kingdom? Baba does not reveal this secret, something interesting hidden behind this. Maya also sees that it has been ruling for half the cycle and that you are now resisting her or it. Then you completely forget Shiv Baba. Some become trapped in the name and form of this Brahma. And they don't remember Shiv Baba at all. And then those who have the evil spirit of anger, greed, or attachment, how can they remember Baba? Their attention is on other stuff. They are so trapped in someone's name and form, don't even ask. You know, as an obsessive compulsive thinking about someone who annoys you. That's the obstacle. So if someone annoys you, tell them, you're very welcome to perform your predestined part in drama. Have a nice day, and you get on with your life. So out of body consciousness, they have attachment. Ji Baba says, continue to remember the beloved while living at home with your family, and you will be able to make your stage karmatit. The main thing is remembrance, and this requires effort. Without remembrance, you cannot become Satopradhan, you cannot claim a high status, because your intellect will continue to wander in yoga in other directions. That means you will get distracted. Your focus of attention will not be able to hold to Baba's remembrance. Some children remember Baba with a lot of love from deep within their hearts. After saying good morning to Baba, say, Baba, I stay in remembrance of you because there is a big weight of sin on my head. So the weight of sin is a force that prevents you from going up. And so you need energy to counteract that weight. How could that weight of sin be lightened if you do not stay in remembrance of Baba? There has been body consciousness for half the cycle, and so it doesn't go away. Deities in the Golden Age are soul conscious. And although they don't know God, they do understand that they are souls and that they will leave one body and take another. If the creation, the people, would know the Father, the Creator, then they would also know the Father's property. That means they would know the knowledge. This knowledge does not remain there. The Father says, I give you this knowledge, and then this knowledge will disappear. This knowledge will not continue until the end of time. That doesn't mean the end of the cycle. This is a reference to a belief that they have in bhakti, that the knowledge is eternally there for all time. But they put it like that in the translation. Those people neither know about souls nor the Supreme Soul. But you now know how all souls received their own parts. You are the best actors of all. At this time, you know that truly you are making the world your kingdom. You have the parts of hero and heroine. And the main thing is to remember the Father. And Baba knows that there are many who do good service at the exhibitions, but they're very weak in remembrance. They do not have the sense to wake up early morning and say good morning to Baba. Although they have many thoughts about different topics, that is very common. And you can have new topics to explain every day. But the main thing is to remember the Father with love so that your sins are cut away. So if you think about your sins as a weight that presses you down, then taking off that weight is removing the sins. You take off that weight with an energy that is equal or greater than the force of sin of 63 births that you don't know too much about. If you're very aware of the pressure that's down on you, maybe that would be a good incentive to resist it. But if you feel tired, then you give up. Because the weight will make itself felt more and more. So you have to keep up with it by the remembrance. So Baba knows that you children don't have that stage yet. Baba is not mentioning any names, because if Baba were to point out who he's talking about, then the stage they have that's not worth a penny would be worth a farthing, a quarter of a penny. So understanding is required for this knowledge. It should not be that if somebody tells you that you look a little pale and perhaps you are unwell, or you have that you then get a fever as soon as you hear that. So many times people tell things to you, oh, you don't look very good, and immediately you go into that. That's a game. Don't buy into that game. Don't be so weak. It's not about being weak. It's about that you just come under the influence when somebody says something a bit negative about you. Oh, you poor thing. Huh? What? I'm not a poor thing. Get out of here. You have to respond like that. Not, oh, yes, I'm a poor thing. No. Courage is needed. That means you have to respond strongly when somebody starts that game. Serviceable children cannot break. They maintain their intoxication, their ecstasy. While working at your business, stay in remembrance of Baba. Continue to say good morning to Baba. The destination is very high. So when you're on a long journey, a very long journey, you need staying power. So if you're a sprinter, it's not going to work. You have to be a marathon person. So don't run too fast because you're tired out. Run at a sustainable speed. If you want to claim a royal status, you do have to make the effort for that. Those who became this in the previous cycle will, as they progress further, continue to know what they will become. You'll recognize yourself. No one will remain hidden. Who's really good, become visible. Who's really not good, that will become visible too. So, can't fake it here. In a school, the teachers know their students and they also keep a register. Everything is known from that too. The main subject in the Golden Age is language. And they talk a lot. I don't know what they talk about, but they talk. They have deep conversations about something. Here, the main subject is remembrance. Knowledge is very simple, and some children are also well able to explain. The intellects are sharp in childhood, and they are able to imbibe. But when you get old mothers, they are not able to explain as much. Here too, Baba has greater respect for the Kumaris. Just make sure that you do not get trapped in someone's name and form and dangle upside down like a bat. An ulu is a bat. So the opposite of the ulu is Allah. So go to God and not dangle upside down. At this time, all people are hanging upside down like bats. That means the body is the priority and the soul is secondary. But once you become the right way up, then you will become the children of Allah. By calling God omnipresent, all people have turned away from him. Sannyasis get their followers to worship them or perform rituals. They put their foot out, they pour water on it, and the worshippers have to drink that and think that it's nectar. Even there was one who came to Oakland. I can't remember his name, very famous one. One of our BK brothers was his follower, and he had to do that. Americans, they don't normally do that, but they did. So otherwise they should say, the sannyasis should say to the followers, why are you offering flowers to us? Offering should be to God. But people do make these sannyasis into their gurus. But the sannyasis are sannyasis and their people are householders. So they can't actually be followers. They can only be called followers when they become sannyasis. No one can even explain to them that they can't call themselves followers. It means no BKs are successfully telling them that they can't call themselves followers. Baba cannot tell anyone that he is a follower. That means that that person is a follower. he can only say this when that person gives a guarantee to become pure. So someone will say, oh, I recognize Baba. Okay, fair enough, but are you acting on it? When they make a promise, they put it in writing, but when they blacken their faces and fall, they don't write to Baba because they are ashamed. So whatever you do comes over your face as a tint. So if you're angry, you get a red tint. If you're jealous, you get a green tint. If you're cowardly, you get a yellow tint, or a white tint. You get white with fear. And then you get this dark tint from lust. So when you do that, this means you're hurting yourself badly. Their intellects cannot be connected in yoga to the Father. They just lose contact with God. So those who are impure are disliked. Baba's not happy with BKs who turn against him like that. So Baba says those who indulge in vice are very bad. He's talking about once you said you will be pure and then you don't, that's not okay. It is good to practice purity. I come and I take a contract to purify you. So you're breaking your contract if you don't practice purity. I will definitely make the world pure. Every cycle you call out to me, the contractor. I don't know if there's a Shiva temple to God the contractor. There may be. It's possible. Huh? Sodagar. Yeah, that's right. And there would be Sodagar, usually the businessman, but contractor. So every cycle you call out to me, the contractor, O purifier, come. There is no other contractor like me. I alone have taken the contract, and I alone will make the world pure. And I come and fulfill this contract every cycle. Interesting. Sannyasis have also been given the contract to practice celibacy and to support Bharat during the Iron Age. Because when Bharat was called heaven, it was the purest of all. The deities were full with all the virtues and completely viceless. Their praise, that means they are described like this. And this praise or this description is not sung in any other place, only in India. There are no images there. You know, in other cultures, they had deities everywhere because after the breakup of the planet from the small destruction, people scattered everywhere and carried on with the deity worship, but it's now only in the primitive religions because Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, it all said, no, this is against God to worship deities. So they got rid of it. There's some still around. So they were masters of heaven. Lakshmi and Narayan are called a goddess and a god. And people buy images of the old idols with a lot of love. So, you know, Brahma Baba was a businessman. And before he became a jeweler, he was dealing in antiques and carpets and all sorts of stuff. So in Calcutta, where he had his business, many tourists would come on the cruise ships. They would come to Calcutta and then the business people would go and sell these things to the tourists. So they would ask for pictures of Lord Krishna. So what happened in the Europeans got very, very excited when the Indian scriptures were translated. I think it was first into German language and then into English. And they were very, very taken with all this, the Gita especially. Then there were other people who got very reactive about the fact that they got this interest. So, but Baba says they liked the images of Krishna the most. So you children should become concerned about becoming Sato Pradhan. Maya did harass you a great deal and does harass you a great deal, and you become completely trapped in someone's name and form. You get attracted, you get impressed, you think such and such a person is a good Baba's child, and then boom, you forget Baba entirely. You don't remember Shiv Baba at all. Baba repeatedly tells you, always consider it is Shiv Baba who is explaining to you. This Brahma doesn't say anything. If he does, which he says a lot, is what Shiv Baba says. Still, you forget Shiv Baba and you remember the name and form. So what status would you then receive? First of all, follow Shrimat. So Shrimat is chase away the evil spirits. That means your emotions that are raised by your sense perception. So chase away body consciousness, materialism. Remember, I am a soul and I must be very sweet. Baba says, continue to forget bodies and all bodily relations. Remember me. Let your hands do your work, and in your heart let there be remembrance. I am your most ancient beloved one. No one else would know how to explain this way. The Father alone comes at this time and makes you into spiritual lovers. And you souls now know that Shiv Baba is your beloved, and you must claim the inheritance of heaven from him. So wake up in the early morning and say good morning to Shiv Baba and remember him. So Baba says, the more you remember him, the more your sins will be cut away. That is the weight of that energy that keeps you down will be reduced and removed. And your body consciousness will continue to break. When you practice this, that stage will become firm. And you will be sitting in such remembrance that even when a customer comes into your shop, your thoughts will not be diverted. And you will then tell him that you were sitting in remembrance and enjoying yourself a great deal. And business people in small shops, they have to just sit there until somebody comes in to buy something. So it's a good opportunity to meditate. As soon as you have dealt with your customer, you will then stay in remembrance of Baba again. So many BKs, they have to meet people. Somebody comes, they want to meet and talk, and so you have to sit there waiting for a customer to come and hear some gyan. So in between, you can stay in remembrance. But of course, many BKs have many things to do, so we have to plan moments of remembrance in between. You must make effort to become karmatit. Baba shows you many ways. It is said of this Brahma that he has many responsibilities. He has to look after the whole yagya. He has to be concerned about what's happening to all his children, and he has a lot. You have more time for remembrance than Brahma Baba has. Still, he has more remembrance than you. So Baba tells you how he does it. He says, I sit down to have my meals in remembrance of Shiv Baba with this thought that both of us are eating together. But then I forget. You're connected and disconnection. This father has the maximum complications. Complications means there are situations in the yagya that he has to deal with, and they're not easy to deal with. There has to be a lot of love for the father. After midnight, it is said that AM begins. Yeah, you have AM and PM. So go to bed early at night and then wake up early in the morning and sit in remembrance. As soon as you wake up, say, Baba, good morning. Do not let your intellects be diverted to anything else. Baba knows every child. Your income for the future is very great. And this income will be useful for cycle after cycle. So the energy you draw from Baba is called income. Some people, they're concerned about money. That is also energy, but it's not as powerful or as impactful as this energy. So let there be no evil spirits. Anger is no less, and attachment too is bad. So these vices are like energy. And if you have money, it won't prevent you from being angry or attached or any of that stuff, because that currency doesn't work for this stuff. But this energy neutralizes those emotions. So sit in remembrance of Baba as much as possible and become pure. Just as Baba is the ocean of knowledge, you children must also become such oceans of knowledge. However, there is only the one ocean. All others are said to be rivers, so you can be rivers of knowledge. Anger is the second number enemy. So lust is the worst one that takes away all your energy, spiritual energy, and then anger also. When you've been angry at the end of it, you're pretty spiritually depleted, right? And anger makes each other's hearts burn. You hurt people's feelings with anger. Greedy people also make one another's hearts burn. And the evil spirit of attachment completely destroys everything. Because of attachment, you forget to remember Shiv Baba and you start remembering your children. Those who conquer attachment will have an unshakable stage. So whatever people do, they are okay, not okay, they die, you're still okay because you're not dependent on those people. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost, and now found children, number wise, according to your efforts, love, remembrance, and good morning. People think God should love me equally because we're all equal. So they have this very peculiar logic based on nothing at all. He says, no, I am a reciprocal type of person, right? You remember him, he remembers you back. You don't remember you, he don't remember you back. You love him, he loves you. You don't love him, he don't love you. They say, what? He has to love me. He's God. He says, you don't know anything. There are many people who think like that, even though he says it's not like that. So think about this. Love, remembrance, and good morning, number wise according to your efforts. From the mother, the father, Bab Dada, and the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children. Spiritual children say namaste to the spiritual father. And the essence of for dharna Together with doing good service, remember the Father with a lot of love from the depths of your heart. As soon as you wake up in the morning, say, Baba, good morning, with a lot of love. And practice staying in remembrance while performing action. Secondly, do not be trapped in the name and form of any bodily being. Continue to think about knowledge and do not talk about waste matters. Waste means meaningless or trivial. And many people think something trivial is highly important, but actually it's trivial, so don't worry about it. And then important things are not important. They are important. For that, you need a good power of discernment and judge what is important and what's not important. The blessing is, may you be full of all treasures and quench the thirst of desperate. I think rather than desperate, it's like despair. So despair is a very different thing than desperate. It's actually the same word, but it's not used the same way. So there are people who are in despair, they're thirsty, they're beggars. And so you must serve them. Just as souls who are swept along in the waves and drowning look for the support of a straw, like when there's a flood or the river overflows, people get swept away, or in the rip tides, the rip currents. So in the same way, just see one wave of sorrow will come, and then you will see how many souls who beg for happiness and peace will come in front of you in their despair. So to quench this thirst of these despairing souls, fill yourself with supersensuous joy and all powers and all treasures. Accumulate so many treasures that you're able to maintain your stage for all time. And you're also able, also you can enable other souls to become complete. Complete means they're not in despair. They have that feeling of Baba's qualities. And the slogan is, have benevolent feelings while giving others teachings, and those teachings will reach their hearts. Om Shanti. Why does Baba ask us to be student teachers? If it wasn't necessary to have a Murli every day, why would he give one? He's not just wasting his time. He doesn't do that. Whenever you get an opportunity to speak to someone about Gyan and someone interested, it refreshes you. And if you think that speaking knowledge to other people is not practical, and you could just say it once and they can listen again and again to your recording or whatever, it means you haven't understood anything about the knowledge. So we speak to people again and again and again. And though the internet is the ocean of BK recordings, that's okay. But it's just so important to continue to speak the knowledge to other people, or to have conversations with each other about deep points of knowledge, because it keeps us, it keeps the knowledge flowing around in a way that it wouldn't if you're not communicating it with other people. And so it's very important. And when you speak to a person one-on-one, each person that you speak to is different. And each person relates to God in their own way. And it's very important to have a lot of experience of talking about the knowledge to a lot of different people, so that your capacity to convey this is increased. So when you're talking knowledge to another person, it is good for them, but it's far, far more important for you than for them. And sometimes people don't understand that all of the things that Baba is asking us to do is not for somebody else, actually. It's for themselves. And so to benefit ourselves, we must do all these things that he suggests, because he doesn't suggest it just to pass the time of day. He suggests it because it's essential. Everything he suggests is essential. And that's why sometimes for these recommendations, they're called Shrimat. It doesn't mean that they're orders. But if a person takes it seriously and understands that this is for me, the problem of ego gets in the way of it, because people who are interested in spirituality also do not want to be selfish, right? Anybody wants to be selfish? I don't think so. No. Many people are selfish, but I don't know anybody who plans to be selfish. Maybe there are some, but usually if you're selfish, you consider it a weakness or a mistake, and that you shouldn't be selfish. Then there are people who say, I'm altruistic. Whatever I do is for other people. And Baba says, you don't understand anything if you say that, because everything you do is for you. So the inheritance he gives us is knowledge. And the knowledge is the knowledge of karma philosophy. And so whatever he wants us to do is a karma. You practice purity as karma. You meditate as karma. You eat in remembrance as karma. You do service as karma. You do physical service, verbal service, mental work, any of the different kinds of works that we do in the context of Baba's house, pure karma. And you cannot do pure karma without this interaction with the yajna and without acting on the different recommendations that Baba gives. It's not that you have to do everything all the time, in the sense that he will give many recommendations. You could do this, you could do that, you could do the other. But sometimes people think they have to do everything. No. You are being offered opportunities. You could serve in the exhibition, you could serve here, you could serve there, you could serve in any way. And all of these opportunities are also tests. Because you have, Baba will give you a duty or an opportunity. And in that, you have a responsibility. You also have a position of power. And he will check, are you using it or abusing it? If you're in a position of power, you abuse that power, or you say you are looking after the yajna's money and you pocket some of it. What is that? You see, in the process of doing pure karma, you do an impure karma. The price you pay for that impure karma is a lot higher than the price you would pay if you did that same thing in a Lokik environment, right? Or if you hurt someone's feeling in Lokik, or you hurt someone's feeling as a Brahmin, you pay a bigger price. Isn't it? And so some people, they see this, they recognize this. Some people, they don't get it. And so it's very, very important to realize that whatever is your effort, the people around you may not be making effort at that level. But don't allow yourself to be pulled down in your effort just because, other people are making ordinary effort. It's not a reason to make ordinary effort yourself. But all the time as a Brahmin, you're resisting a lot of energy that pulls things down. It's interesting that he talks about sin as a weight that you are resisting all the time. And that weight is tons and tons. And when you first come in Gyan, you have no idea what kind of weight you're dealing with. You can't feel it. But as you progress in Gyan, you begin to feel it. And then if a person is not making the necessary effort to achieve the energy level that counterbalances that weight, you won't be able to hold up. And it's just, that's the way it is. So Baba tells us all these things. And if we don't pay attention or if we don't get it, then we find ourselves in for surprise. But, it's better to wake up late than not at all. But if you wake up late and you realize you don't have the strength to lift these tons of weight, then you have to do special practice to get strong enough to resist this ever-increasing pressure. Because sometimes in some Murlis, Baba has said, Maya is a very good student, and Maya listens to Baba very well and understands exactly what to do to take out the BKs. But the BKs are not so attentive as Maya. So just really, really realize that in the end, everything that is being done is for the self. And when you think what you're doing is for somebody else, you get into a bondage, or you get into an attachment, or you come under an influence, and then you're no longer free. So all of these are contexts, whether it's your Lokik family, it's context, your BK family, it's a context in which to understand and deal with this weight that is pressing down and that you feel more and more as time goes by. It doesn't mean that it wasn't there in the first place. It was, but you didn't feel it. And it's a phenomenon that we don't feel it initially, but we feel it later on, because if we do everything as he says, we're able to counterbalance it, even it increases and increases and increases. A lot of people think that, if you do Raj Yoga for a little bit, everything will get easier. It never is like that. Even though he says, as the days go by, your happiness will increase and all of this, provided you are consistent with the work of resisting this pressure. The world is like a very strong current sending everybody to hell. And Brahmins are going the other way. But when you're swimming against a strong current, if you stop swimming, you go the same way as where the current goes. So you have to swim stronger than the current in order to make progress. That means you need big muscles. And here we're not talking about biceps and all that. We're talking about the muscle of the intellect. And the intellect means focus of attention, and it also means willpower. So the intention to do this needs to be constantly strengthened. And that's the way it is. Whether it should be or shouldn't be, can't do anything about that. But to understand that that's the way it is helps to realize that let me not get caught up in trivia because it wasted time and it didn't do any good anyway. Because everything that happens is really useful. Everything that happens is predestined in drama, which means it's good or it's bad, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let it go. People who are very worried about doing wrong action, they will hold on to it and they will be as guilty as possible and as miserable as possible. I did this thing and somebody else did this thing or whatever. And actually, it's just predestined, so let it go. This knowledge of drama is very important to use it to let go of stuff. Whatever happened, so what? Good, bad, or indifferent. Okay, fair enough. Keep going. Yeah.
So what is the meaning of 16 celestial degrees full in the golden age and in the confluence age? What are these degrees that we have to imbibe in the confluence age?
These 16 celestial degrees refer to light. You remember a little bit earlier, I was talking about how when you do an action under the influence of a vice, you get different tints on your face. And when you have yoga, you get light. So the brightness comes through the face. And the 16 celestial degrees refers to the full moon. So when the moon is full, it's the whole moon is reflecting the light of the sun. And when we are completely reflecting the light of the sun of Shiv Baba, then that's called 16 celestial degrees. So our yoga is an accumulation of that light. And the light contains the energy of purity, love, power, peace, all this, the qualities of God. But primarily it is light. And whenever there is negative karma, then the darkness comes again. And so you are in this practice, in the business of removing the shadows. He often talks about Maya as a shadow, and this refers to the eclipse. So the moon is reflecting the sun, but if there's the shadow of another planet over in the way, then it's a dark shadow over that moon, or you get a shadow over the sun that comes with the solar eclipse. And so these are analogies to help us understand what we have to do, which is become full, bright reflections of the sun. So sometimes Brahma Baba is called the moon of knowledge. Shiv Baba, the sun, has his own light, but we have to reflect that light fully. And the planets refer to karmic accounts. So he talked today about this burden of sin. You can also think of it not just only as a weight, but also as a shadow. So when a karmic account comes up, it means it's in the way, it gets in the way between you and God. And that's just that. And then you have to, it is said you have to give donation to remove the eclipse. So when your karmic account comes and gets in the way between you and God, what do you have to give in order to remove that eclipse? So one thing is the karmic account that comes will cause you to, or it will awaken in you attachment or anger or whatever it is, so that your mind is focused on that person with whom you have a karmic account, and you cannot remember Baba because they're in the way. And so you have to really see what it is about yourself that's making you attentive on that soul. And it's a karmic account, so it's very strong magnetic power. And then you have to use your will to neutralize it. So, for example, you become emotionally dependent or attracted or whatever it happens to be. You have to neutralize that, stop that, and at any price, because it will cost you emotional pain or whatever, but you stop it. And that's what and then you use your energy to do service, to try to meditate, even though you can't meditate, study, whatever it is, do all the things so that the energy of what you do is bigger than the energy of that shadow. And in that way, you are finishing the karmic account through yoga. And that karmic account will give you trouble. It'll give you many different kinds of distress. And don't fall into that trap or buy into the game or whatever it is. And every time anything like this happens, the reason it is there is to make you strong and to make you experience, so you understand the game, because the game is very subtle. And it keeps coming because of your weakness. To let you know you have a weakness, you better fortify yourself against this weakness, because otherwise the shadow will again and again come and get in the way between you and Baba, and it's your job to get it out of the way. And if you don't strong about it, then you'll be defeated. And the way that it works is that when a karmic account comes along, it will take the form of trying to make you break one of your spiritual disciplines, whether it's celibacy or whether it's not getting angry or whatever it is. The karmic account will come to make you break it. And once you break it, then you're defeated, because it drains away all your up to now accumulated spiritual energy and takes you like snakes and ladders. You fall down the snake and back to square one. But whatever, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back on track and get back where you were. And whatever it takes, however long it takes, whatever, do it. This is called Raj Yoga. And it doesn't matter what it was, so what? But some people, they can't pick themselves up because they're worried about, oh, what will people say? I did this, I did that, blah, blah, blah. So what? It's not their business. Don't make it their business. Even if they tell you all sorts of things, get off my back. So this need to be forceful is there. This is called the power to face. If you don't have the power to face, you're missing something. I see. So there are times when you have to do nothing. Stuff is going on, not your problem. But when a karmic account comes and something gets between you and Baba, you have to get rid of it. Otherwise, how can you be called a spiritual warrior if you don't defeat a few enemies? And good warriors have plenty of scars. Have you seen a fight without all sides getting injured? It doesn't happen. And sometimes Baba says, your battle with Maya is boxing. Maya will hit you, you will hit Maya. So you need some force. We're not little angel, fairy, airy, fairy whatnots who can be blown away by just a poof. No, we can't do that. But some people think that You have to be nicey, goody, two shoes, sugar and spicy, whatnot. That's not Raj Yoga. Sorry. Yeah.
I remember once Baba said that it's like a wrestling where Maya comes and sits on you. It makes you hard even to budge. They slam down and then sit on you.
Exactly.
You got to figure it out to get off the ground.
Yeah.
So the next question is, souls are supposed to love all souls without conditions.
Who said that?
Isn't the same thing true for God loving all the children without reciprocating?
Yeah,
a little confused at what was said, that God's love is based on that.
Now, some bright spark came up with this idea called unconditional love. It has never come from God, but there are tons of BKs who say, yes, unconditional love. Where they got that idea from was some worldly source, because there is this fashion of unconditional love that is a worldly thing. But there's no such thing as unconditional love. Doesn't exist, never has, never will. What is needed is benevolence. You don't hold anything against anyone, because you understand whatever they do is in their predestined part in drama. But the way people take this word unconditional love is you have to give away your power, give your energy to everybody, and turn into a nincompoop. What is that? Ultra stupid. So we can't go along. It's as ridiculous as the idea of the omnipresence of God. And maybe it came from the same source, I don't know. But there's another thing that I have strong objection to. It's like you forgive everyone. It is, you do not have the possibility to cancel somebody's debt, because the law of karma just runs and there's nothing you can do about it. Whatever karma a person does, the consequences of that will come. And it's possible that somebody did some horrible thing to you and you say to them, okay, I forgive you. But that doesn't have any meaning, because they will have to suffer the consequences of what they do, whether you forgive them or not, because you cannot remove their karmic account. And that's the meaning of forgiveness. So give up completely this idea of unconditional love and forgiveness. Sorry, it's not realistic. So what should you do? When Baba says soul conscious, it means your relationship with everyone is fraternal. And in fraternity, what you owe to another person is love and regard. So you don't have to be nasty to anybody. You don't have to be prejudiced against anyone. That's not right. You have good wishes and pure feelings, but you don't get involved with them. And then there are many people who say, well, God said you have to have unconditional love, therefore you have to love me whether I'm good, bad, or indifferent. And they create all of these syllogisms based on these ideas. And then all the refinement of knowledge, the pure intellect, the clarity, so out of the window because of these two ideas, unconditional love and forgiveness. And so be careful when you buy into that idea because it doesn't have any connection with spirituality or God, but it's like a fashionable thing. It's just a fashionable statement that kind of got into the social media or somewhere, I don't know, but it's similar to the idea of omnipresence of God. You know, somebody came up with that and everybody said yes, 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 but it doesn't mean it's true. And then God has to have so much effort to take it out. When people use the term unconditional love, if you look at this question again. Souls are supposed to love all souls without condition. Who said that? That they're not supposed to love all souls without condition. Just when you are conscious of a soul, being a soul, you have no reason not to love them, but don't put this word without condition. And then in the Murli today, Baba was quite explicit in the very end. He said, number wise, according to your efforts, love and remembrance. And this is something that people really don't like. And they say that God shouldn't. Because if he loves somebody, it means he's favoring them. That means he's not just, you know, and they use all these like reasons to prove that there's something wrong with God and that they themselves are great. And it's just not really so. So the love, the act of love is something that you give. Love means giving. So like a devta is a giver. The opposite of a devta is a levta, is a taker. So if somebody is in trouble because they put themselves in trouble, or they committed a crime or something like that, that's not a reason for you to hate them, you see. But it doesn't mean that you will tell them it doesn't matter what they did. They do have to face the consequences, because what happens, it happens very often, the way women are conditioned to serve their men is that whatever he does, love him anyway. And the consequences of that is that he gets the idea that he's above the law. And then you have actually enabled him to do wrong action, which he wouldn't do if you set up some boundaries and said, I'm sorry, this is not acceptable. You see? And so, for example, in addiction recovery, they talk about enablers, and which is typically the wife of an alcoholic or the wife of an addict. And that wife will cover for his mistakes. So, for example, a typical example is the husband gets drunk, very badly drunk, has a terrible hangover the next morning, can't go to work. He says, can you please tell them at the office that I'm not feeling too well, or I had some lie. And then she goes along and lies. And that means that she is condoning his negative action, and she's not calling him to account. And so when in addiction recovery, they also have to look at the enablers. And it's a family problem. And so the enabler has to be told, look, when he does this, he has to face the music, because if he doesn't face the music, he's not going to understand that what he's doing is not right. So you cover for him and you condone his behavior, you're encouraging him to continue with it, and the sin of that comes on you. So in the process of addiction recovery, for the enabler to stop enabling the person who's behaving wrong is a very, very key part of the process. And the idea of unconditional love is strongly favored by enablers, because then they don't have to they don't have to face the fact that they are partly to blame for the bad behavior of the identified addict. And this is a very key part in addiction recovery, the enablers. So you have Alcoholics Anonymous, and along with that, Al-Anon. You have people who are children of addicts or children of alcoholics. They grow up in a dysfunctional family where the rules are totally maniacal and inconsistent and incoherent. And that child, when they become an adult, they do the same thing because they don't know, because nobody ever gave them any structure. And so this is why the idea of unconditional love is quite toxic. And then when God says, I love you, in response to your love for me, he's actually in relationship with us, and he's teaching us by how he reciprocates. And so, for example, if you do something against God, the consequences are that you will be blocked from making contact, so that you get it. You did something against God. Don't do that. That's how he works. And you did something really good. Maybe nobody realized that you did something good, but he knew you did something good. He will give you a reward of that by letting you feel really close to him. And then you'll know, oh, yeah, that was good what I did. And in that way, he's teaching, yeah, do that and don't do the other. Because what people think is right and wrong is not accurate. And the best way for him in his relationship with us to help us to do the right thing all the time is to block when we do the wrong thing and to open up his gates when we do the right thing so that we get it. And that is very conditional, you know. And it's actually very healing, very purifying, very, very good. And there are so many prevailing social attitudes or fashions which put us in big trouble because we just don't get it. And it's because it's a skewed society. It's skewed towards the males, towards the whites, towards the Christians, towards whatever. And then all of the moral codes get also wrong. And then people do more bad karma. And so God is the only one who can clarify. Yeah.
So on the same line, can we say that as go beyond conditioning of the physical karma, and then when you are soul conscious, then you are free from that conditioning, and then you still have to make effort at a spiritual level?
You see, there are boundaries. And when you break a boundary, there are consequences. So this is called conditions. So you cannot be free from conditions. Every time you go on your computer and you talk to a new app, it gives you a long thing called terms and conditions that are so long you never read it. You just press agree and you don't know what you've agreed to. But there is nothing like anything without terms and conditions. It just doesn't exist. And the existence of the philosophy of karma is the same thing as terms and conditions. And people who say there's no conditions, they're saying there is good, but there's no philosophy of karma. And what he's saying is, yeah, there's me, and there's a philosophy of karma, and there's a predestined drama, and you cannot live without taking all these into consideration. Because if you try doing that, you'll be in trouble. And if you understand all these things, you will handle every and all kind of trouble. So it's like, this is the inheritance, the wealth of the knowledge that he says, I'm telling you all you need to know. And that means you have to unknow the stuff that misrepresented the truth. Read the terms and conditions.
So in the yesterday's Murli, meaning of Brahma offering himself hospitality.
Oh, right. Khatri. Khatri is, it's again connected with this reciprocity. So in yesterday's Murli, Baba was talking about the invocation of the spirit of Narayan into someone's body. And he knew that it's his future self, the sanskaras of his future self that's being invoked. And when you invoke the spirit of a deity in Hindu environment, you must offer them hospitality. And so that's what he meant by offering himself, because he's offering to this deity, but then it's also himself. And so it's like, ooh, I'm offering this to myself. Myself. Because you're the same one. And it is so difficult for people to be able to grasp such a thing. But Baba did grasp it. And then you see, he said in today's Murli, you'll gradually find out who you are. Not all BKs understand the knowledge too well. It is like that. So there are many BKs who have looked on to this idea of unconditional love, many. And if you tell them otherwise, they don't listen. I can't do anything about that, but what to do?
Yeah, the sun shines, doesn't shine on people conditionally. So God is supreme sun, but we condition ourselves to get exposed and to absorb. So that way God is unconditional. So that is how it comes up.
Okay, if you like, you can say that. But when you say that, it refers to what I was saying earlier. You're saying there is God. We don't have to think about predestination. We don't have to think about drama. We don't have to think about karma philosophy. And if you communicate Gyan in that way, there is a case for saying that's dereliction of duty. because you're a teacher. If you're not teaching your subject as it should be taught, it would not be bad for someone to come along and say, hey, you're not doing your duty. You are misrepresenting God. And that's a very strong accusation, but there is a case for it. So if we are going to represent God and we don't do it adequately, sooner or later someone will come along and say, hey, what is this? You see? And a lot of people say, no, this is easy Raj Yoga, so we can simplify it and we can say part of the knowledge and not the other part, and that's okay. But the students will sooner or later come and call you to account. And that would be valid, I would say. I know you're not saying it, but you're saying something very important, which is that there are people who speak like that, who understand the knowledge like that. And that gives me the opportunity to say that if you're teaching it incorrectly, somebody's going to find out one of these days, or feel it or recognize it, and they're going to come and call you to account. So you said that God said this and he didn't. So what is this? And maybe nobody likes me to say things like that, but in a court of law, Baba has said that there's going to be a law suit about the Gita one of these days, and to prove who is the God of the Gita, and also to prove which parts of the Gita are accurate and which are inaccurate. And right now there's not so much attention on accuracy, but it will come up.
I am a historical enabler. I know I'm very powerful, and I don't want to abuse that power. And so in my karmic accounts, I err on the side of allowing too much. And so this clarification is very, very helpful, because there is a possible lawsuit pending, and I have to be extremely precise. And so thank you. Yeah, big gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you. You have to do rigorous self-examination to find out what are you motivated by. And if you can be clear with yourself, honest with yourself to that extent, you are made. Because it's this lack of precision that lets us fudge these things. And then we make the excuse, oh, well, I thought it was okay. Well, because you didn't pay attention properly.
We forgive something, it's more for ourselves than for the other person, isn't it?
Well, what I would do in that situation, I would take away the word forgive, because if you check the meaning of the word forgive, it means you cancel out a person's debt. And because of knowing the laws of karma, you know that you can't do that. So the way I get around that, or what words I use, is let it go. Somebody did this, that, or let it go. Okay, it's fine. you will pay your own karmic accounts, but I will not be the one to give you punishment. It's not necessary. I let it go.
Can you please explain what is sleep according to knowledge? Baba says at times sleep is temporary detachment from the body. What does he mean by that?
Temporarily detached from the body means that you are detached from your sense perceptions. You're not unconscious, but you're asleep. So you're not doing any sins, which he likes at that time. And you're also resting, so you detach from the body. So sometimes in India, sleep is called the little death because it's detachment from the body.